We have, yeah, it's working. We have fear. We have dismay. They've got this large giant, not just an army, but a giant, and we're talking a real giant, over 10 feet tall. Andre the Giant would probably not be a giant compared to him, and so, but there is fear, and so number one, we see faith over fear in your notes. Faith over fear. Verse 11. They were frightful of what they saw, and they were kind of paralyzed in fear. In fact, it'll go on and say for 40 days, Goliath would come out morning and night and defy the God of Israel and the army of Israel. And for 40 days, he would give that challenge, and they're just frozen in fear. Conversely, we have a young man named David. Now, who is David? Who is David? In the previous chapter, we are introduced to David. We're in Samuel. Samuel's a prophet. He's a prophet of God, and he works with the king, and he represents God to the king and to the nation. And in the story in Samuel, we see that Israel wanted a king, so they got King Saul. They did that because they wanted to be like the other nations around the world, and they wanted a king. Who was their king? God. But they wanted to be like everybody else, so God let them have a king, and he let them have Saul. He gave them Saul. Saul looked like he should be a king. He was tall. He was handsome. He was strong. A little fearful at the beginning, but he looked like a guy. Oh, that's a guy I would follow into battle. And so you have in this narrative we have Saul become a king. Saul makes some mistakes and loses his kingdom. He hasn't lost it yet, but he through the story he had not waited on Samuel, and ended up providing an offering because he was fearful. He was needing Samuel for a battle, and he got ahead of himself. And Samuel said, "You lost the kingdom." And so God told Samuel to go anoint another man. And there was this young man, David. He was son of Jesse, and he was one of several brothers. He was the youngest of the brothers. And Samuel went to, in the previous chapter, went to anoint someone. He didn't know who, but he just knew that he had to go to the house of Jesse and anoint someone. And the first one he came to was the oldest, Eliab. And he was like, "What? Surely he's going to be the one." You know, that's Jesse thought, if one of my sons, it's going to be my oldest. Samuel knew. God, nope. Went through all the brothers. Is there not another brother here? Well, yeah, there's David, little David. He's guarding and shepherding the sheep. Well, bring him in. Samuel anointed him, said, "You'll be king over Israel." That's a hefty thing. He's just a shepherd boy. He's not a warrior. We find in chapter 17 here, just for time, that his brothers, the top three brothers, went to follow Saul. They're in this paralyzation of fear with Saul here at this battle, or this lack of battle right now, this standoff. And they're paralyzed in fear, but David, we see, if we skip ahead to verse 45, kind of our main verses here, when David will finally come to the Philistine, he says, then said David to the Philistine, "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts and the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day into the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel." And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. So we have rather than paralyzed in fear, we have someone who's tapping in to God's power. He's recognizing that it's not me. It's not my weaponry. What did he have, a sling and stones? But it's God. And you've defied the God of heaven. You've defied our God, who is the true God, who is the creator, who is your creator and my creator. You've defied him, and he will win this. And so we have this faith over fear that David had. Number two, we have this unlikely warrior. He was a shepherd. It was unexpected. In verse 33, we're going to just go over this. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight for him, for thou art but a youth, and he is a man. He is a man of war from his youth. David, when he was brought to Saul, recognizing that is there not a cause? He's like, how could you do this? He's like, an unlikely warrior. God uses weak things to confound the strong, doesn't he? He does. And so David was one of these people that though he would be weak, he is strong in the Lord. And so he had this unlikely warrior, a shepherd boy. His brothers are warriors. They're fighting, or not fighting right now, but standing looking in awe. And here, the Lord provides an unlikely warrior. You know, one of the problems that Israel had later on when Christ came was Christ was not the warrior that they wanted. They wanted a warrior to defeat Rome. They wanted a warrior to conquer the world. Then they could, for him, no, for them. Think about that. They wanted to be the conquering force, and this is our king. And Jesus came as a meek baby in a manger and showed love and grace and mercy towards people, and that was not what they were wanting. Well, if you're the king, if you're the king of the Jews, why aren't you establishing your kingdom now? That's what they wanted. I'm sure when David set out in front of Goliath, the others went, yeah, this is going to be quick. Probably even his brothers. Well, I didn't tell David I loved him today. In fact, Eliab was just mad at him just right before that. And probably thinking that they're going to lose David. But he was an unlikely warrior. Number three, why? There was preparation in the ordinary. There was preparation in the ordinary, or the mundane, the things that he was doing. So what was David? David was a shepherd. David's job for the family as the youngest, probably it was that shepherd was handed down to him finally, being the youngest. Hey, your job is to go watch the sheep. We'll do what we want to do. And so not a glamorous thing. In fact, shepherds, when the Israelites were in Egypt, they were an abomination, that we learned, to the Egyptians. That's why they didn't eat with the Hebrews, and shepherds were kind of an abomination. So they had them set apart, and so a shepherd was a lowly job, but it was important to keep the sheep. And the sheep were used for food, and the sheep were used, that was sustenance. And so it was an important job, but it could be mundane, but not necessarily all the time. God would use, if you look further in 34 and 37, he said, and David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock, and I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth, and when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. And if he just stopped there, he'd be pretty arrogant. But he's not. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear. He gave the Lord credit. He will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. Saul was probably dealing with trust issues. All right, if you say so, go. I'm not losing one of my warriors. We'll lose you, but go. But David had confidence, not in himself, not in his own prowess. He says, like I said, if he would have said, I killed a lion and a bear, I can do it. Can you? Probably not. But he gave God credit. He knew that it wasn't him. It was God who delivered him safely from theirs, and delivered his sheep safely from the bear and the lion. He had confidence in God's past faithfulness. He recalled God's past help in his life, and if we do that, if we recall God's past help in our lives, because I love it when we're on the mountaintop. It's awesome. Sun's shining, beautiful day. Let's go to church. Let's go hear what God has for us today. Maybe I don't know, but it's a good day. You're driving along, it's a good day. And sometimes circumstances happen, things happen, and that good day turns south pretty quick. And I love it when we're on the mountaintop, but sometimes we're not always going to be on the mountaintop. Sometimes we're going to be in the valley. And we need to decide, God is with me on the mountaintop. He's with me in the valley. If I don't feel him there, it's not because of him, it's because of me. He's still there. He's there in the mountain. He's there in the valley. He's there in the light. He's there in the dark. David knew that. And in the ordinary, I'm just doing a job, simple job. And sometimes we have an ordinary, mundane job. But God might be teaching you stuff through that. And so preparation in these ordinary things, these small things, he uses these small tasks to prepare you for larger challenges, maybe. You would never ask someone who just gets saved to come, hey, why don't you be the pastor? They're not ready for that. But as you grow, you might be ready, after a while, you might be ready to start teaching somebody, leading other people to the Lord, and sharing your faith, and leading children. And I never thought I'd be a Sunday school teacher. In fact, the words out of when one of the pastors asked me to, when pastor asked me to teach a class here, and Cheryl goes, him? You want him to do it? Thank you, babe. But it takes time. It takes growth, and sometimes don't discount the mundane. Don't discount what you're doing now. God's preparing you for something, and He wants you to grow. He doesn't want you. If you got saved today, He doesn't want you to be the same 2-5 years from now. He wants you to be growing. He wants the relationship. It's just like meeting someone. A guy and a girl meet. They meet and wow, that's a neat person. Well, it's not going to stay that way. You need to get to know each other. You need to know this person. The relationship needs to grow. The marriage, a marriage, and it grows. And it grows through the highs and the lows and the adventures and the disappointments. It grows. And so that's what David knew. He knew that the Lord, even though he was doing a lowly job, the Lord was preparing him. And he prepared in this preparation in the ordinary. And then finally, the Lord's battle. The Lord's battle. It wasn't his battle. David declared the victory would come through God in verse 47 again. He said, and all the assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. It's not going to be me. The Lord's going to win this battle. The Lord is going to be the one who fights for Israel, his people. I still believe the Lord's fighting for Israel today. I do. No, you'll hear on the internet, you'll hear different things. You'll hear Christians questioning support for Israel. I support them. I support them. I believe they're still God's chosen people. I believe we also are now grafted in to God by being saved. But I believe God's still fighting for them, even if they're not following God. How many times do we not follow God? We call ourselves a Christian nation. Are we? We're founded on Christian principles, and I hope we are, and I think we're still being blessed because of our stance with Israel. But God is the one who fights. God is the one who protects. God is the one who is going to win this victory. God is the one being cursed by this Philistine and the Philistine army. And David knew that. David knew this was a spiritual battle, not just a physical battle. This was a spiritual battle. God would get the glory out of all of this. For those of you who've never heard the story, David approached Goliath. In fact, after David says this, can't not do the story without saying it. Let's see, go 47. 48. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came to draw nigh to meet David, David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. He didn't set himself up. He ran towards him. And as David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face on the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took took this Philistine's sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof and slew him and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Power of God in a stone. I can't wait to see that motion picture when I go to heaven. That film reel of what actually happened. They try to do it in movies. I don't think they ever can do it justice in movies. But I think God, I can't wait to see that he trusted in the power of God to defy this giant, this unattainable goal. And we have unattainable goals in our lives. So it's a spiritual battle, and if we always try to take a human perspective on things, we might fail to see what God can really do. And David, unlike Saul, could see God's power. Now, could Saul have still mustered up the power of God? I think he could have. He's been told he's lost his kingdom. He was going to lose his kingdom. But if he relied on God, he possibly could have, through God, won this. But it took David. So we're studying the power source, and we're studying the power of God in our lives. So that's our first spring campaign lesson. I have a little fun thing. We have a couple minutes, so I just kind of wanted to do this. We lost someone this week, and I normally wouldn't highlight certain things like this, but I think it really, for guys, this really impacted us. We lost Chuck Norris this week. 86 years old. He passed away. He was a devout believer. He had a clear testimony of salvation in his life. Not just being a undercover Christian. He had quotes about about his, you don't end this life without Jesus in it. And he's saved. And I believe he is in heaven today. And I don't know if there's new jokes being written about it, new memes being written about it, but there's some good ones out there. Jack was nimble, Jack was quick, but Jack still couldn't dodge Chuck Norris's roundhouse kick. It was awesome. In the beginning, there was nothing. Then Chuck Norris roundhouse kicked nothing and told it to get a job. I love that one. Let me see. Mission Impossible was originally set in Chuck Norris's house. Chuck Norris uses pepper spray to season his meat. Chuck Norris is able to slam a revolving door. Chuck Norris has a diary. It is called the Guinness Book of World Records. Let's see. There's like 110, but I'm not going to do them all. When Chuck Norris lifts weights, the weights get in shape. When the boogeyman goes to sleep every night, he checks the closet for Chuck Norris. The flu gets a Chuck Norris shot every year. Chuck Norris is the reason why Wally is hiding. Let me see. When Chuck Norris plays dodgeball, the balls dodge him. Freddy Krueger has nightmares about Chuck Norris. What else? Chuck Norris makes onions cry. I love that. Aliens are real. They're just hiding from Chuck Norris. Oh, this is good. This is good. Okay. Pastor said, don't use this one. I said, it'll be funny. It'll be funny. On the seventh day, God rested. After that, Chuck Norris took over. That's pretty funny. Okay. Not in church. All right. The sun wears sunglasses when Chuck Norris glances at it. All right. Time waits for no man unless that man is Chuck Norris. I like mathematicians. Chuck Norris found the last digit of pi. Chuck Norris can divide by 0. When Chuck Norris does division, there are no remainders. And Chuck Norris has counted infinity more than once. When Chuck Norris goes to a restaurant, the waiter tips him. Chuck Norris's tears cure cancer. Too bad Chuck has never cried. Chuck Norris can do a wheelie on a unicycle. And I'll finish this one. Chuck Norris's email address is gmail@chucknorris.com. So we lost. Heaven gained someone that was pretty interesting, someone that was unique to our American lore. So Chuck Norris, and he was, by the way, he was a former Air Force serviceman. So that's where he got started. So, all right. So we're going to close here. So I encourage you, go back, grab one of these. Take a few moments if you want to recite that the verse that's in your handout there. And I'm going to hand these out right now. These are not the ones you're doing today or after service. You want to do it after service, you need a little bit more time. But these are for next week. So tape these up to your mirror at home. And this will be the verse for next week. It's a little bit longer, but for March 29th. So we'll hand these out as we depart and get ready for Sunday school. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the love you have for us and for what you have done in our lives, Lord. And I just pray that, Lord, we would just stay focused on you and rely on your power in our lives, Lord. We just thank you for gathering us here today. Be with the pastor as he brings the message in the next hour. Soften our hearts to receive it. In your precious name we pray. Amen. All right. Let's grab one of these. Yes, sir. There's one.